I have here Nana Akufo-Addo, and to his right, you see the Rich Hospital, which was to depict hospitals. It's not one of the Agenda 111. It's to depict hospitals. And then you have free SHS. So we are hearing that the International Monetary Fund is in town, and they are talking to people. They are talking to the Vice President today. They were there. They have met the Ministry of Finance, and they are talking about, they're going to be looking to talk about perhaps, just perhaps, reviewing some of the big ticket social policies, some of the big ticket social interest policies. And free SHS is one of them, and Agenda 111 is another. Now tonight, in the next 1 minute or so, I'm going to give you my take on why, if there has to be a choice between free SHS and Agenda 111, government must review Agenda 111 rather than review free SHS, and I'll tell you why. So what's Agenda 111? Agenda 111 is a brilliant, fantastic vision of President Akufo-Addo to develop 101 hospitals across the country. Now, this became necessary during the COVID period, as we all knew that we're going to die of COVID, and the government was panicking about what to do, part of which has led the government to the economic situation they have now, because they bent over themselves and said that they know how to bring an economy back, but they don't know how to bring human beings back. So we did everything for human beings to survive, including all the things you already know. Some of you are bored with it now. Free water, free electricity. Yeah, it's boring, isn't it? Now it's boring. But in 2020, it was not boring, okay. But that's what the government did, because they wanted to save lives. We didn't know that COVID was not such a big deal. It's not going to kill us. We've been having malaria all the time. We have sunshine. We are black people. We can recover. I mean, Nigeria didn't do anything about free water. Cote d'Ivoire and all the rest didn't do much about free water. Ghana did, because we thought we were going to die. Now, so in those circumstances, the president then decided that in future, to forestall another pandemic, giving us the problem we have, because during the pandemic, we were short of beds. Kolebu didn't have beds, Adom-Otchere didn't have beds, private hospitals didn't have beds. Ga East Hospital had just been built, and then it was made a COVID hospital. And then the private sector came together and built a COVID center at Ga East so that we can just get beds. So within the context of that, President Akufo-Addo said, why don't we secure funding and have a vision to develop 101 hospitals across the country? So that's Agenda 111. It's a brilliant policy. And it's a big ticket government policy, because it's going to suck up a lot of taxpayers' money, okay? Free SHS, which was launched in 2017, is also a big ticket government policy. Why do I say that? If you have to review one of them, keep free SHS and review Agenda 111. Agenda 111 is 120 hospitals, isn't it? You can do 20 hospitals. You can do 25 hospitals. You can cut it down to 25 hospitals between now and 2024, or the first phase with 25 hospitals, and then let the rest wait until the next government that comes in 2025 can look at it and see whether they want to continue. If they're also not able to finish, the next government that comes in 2029 can also do that, okay? But free SHS, I believe government should not touch it. Why do I say that? What's free SHS now? So free SHS is the policy that equates Ghana to other developed countries who focus on education. We know that in 1997, when Tony Blair ran for Prime Minister in Britain, he was about the most popular politician in Britain then, with the highest approval ratings. When Tony Blair was asked what is his vision for Britain, he said his vision was education, education, and education. And Tony Blair is credited for transforming British education and making it a global center for all people to come in and study in Britain. I studied in Britain on a British government scholarship, and that was as a result of Tony Blair insisting that our country is going to be a centerpiece of global education. 10 years later, 20 years later, Britain is a centerpiece of global education at all levels, and they have free SHS, they do, okay? So President Akufo-Addo was trying to do this, and the only president in Ghana who has done this before is Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. We know that already, his free education policy, okay? And J. Ekufuor came in and did free basic education, what we used to call F-Cube, free universal compulsory basic education. That's what President Ekufuor brought, F-Cube, okay? Now, well, before President Kufuor, you can say President Rawlings had changed the education system from the GCE to what we now have. But President Kufuor came and spent government money on it and said it's free and it's compulsory. President Akufo-Addo came and said not just free basic education, but SHS secondary also has to be free. The thing that's not free now is university. We know that in 2020, President Mahama promised that first year university will be free. Maybe that will happen later on. Now, so with free SHS, the president also added that day students who were in a boarding school like Presec will also eat lunch because it is important for students to eat in the afternoon. Otherwise, they get too tired, you understand? And if parents don't have money, if parents are very poor, they really will not give them food. I mean, those days when we used to live in Labadi, a lot of boys don't eat at lunchtime. They don't eat at breakfast. They don't eat at lunch. They only eat at dinner. They don't eat anything that's great. I've seen that. I've seen that with my own eyes in Labadi, so I understand it. Okay. Now, President thought that the day students should also eat. So if you go to Ebri Girls and you're a day student, you live in the Ebri area, you live in the Peduasi area, you go to day school in Ebri Girls, you would eat lunch, and that's part of the bill. And then, not just that, day students like Aquinas Secondary School, which is not too far from the old Metro TV, or Laboni Secondary School, which is now largely boarding, but Aquinas is completely day. Day students in Aquinas Secondary School will be built a dining hall, which has been done. When Napo was education minister, he was building dining halls in day schools every day. They were just mushrooming across the place all over the time. And day schools have been built dining hall where the students are eating lunch. And that's why we are seeing the Upper West region problem where they're talking about food. Some of those schools are day, but they have to eat lunch, okay? And that was added to free SHS. The other thing that was added to free SHS is the quota system. The quota system was enhanced and pronounced so that at least 30% of the people who are coming to PRESEC will not ordinarily qualify to come to PRESEC. But if their circumstances show that they came from very deprived areas, then their aggregate 13 will take them to PRESEC. Even when PRESEC is cutting off as aggregate 6, 13 from a deprived area will go to PRESEC. So the quota system was pronounced under free SHS, where you have people who ordinarily should not qualify for Adisadel, for Infant Spim, for Wesley Girls, for Holy Child, for Archbishop Porter Girls, for Laboni Secondary School. All of these people are going in 30% of it because we have to have an equalization of our society going forward. And education is the denominator. And so all of this is free SHS. And that's why I think that is such an important policy. This is one of the few times I agree with Dr. Raymond Atuguba, the Dean of the Faculty of Law, because Dr. Atuguba said that in 2017, he said that this free SHS, we should go to Parliament and codify it so that no one can change it. We should make it a law so that it is part and parcel of our educational development so that no one can change it. We haven't done that, and that's why people are having ideas that IMF can change. If it was part of our laws, nobody can change it. It would have required an amendment to the law in Parliament. Then we'll see which MPs are voting for it and which MPs are voting against it. That's the conversation. That's the conversation that we are having right now. So that's why we are backing free SHS right now. That's why we are backing free SHS. Now, the other thing about free SHS, which is significant, which I'm going to say now, is that, and forgive me, politicians, because I'm going to talk about politicians. So politicians all the time do things, okay? And we know that politicians get thank yous when they do things. So if I'm a politician and I give a contractor a road to make Accra to Apeja, Accra to Kumasi, Kumasi to Wale Wale, Gumprugu Yo to Bole Bamboy, and I allow him to do a road and he gets paid by the government, he's probably going to give me something. That's what they say, I don't know. So we hear that politicians get thank yous, okay? But if a politician comes and says that I am doing free SHS, that one is noble because he's not going to get any thank you from anyone. The school fees that you are paying for the children to PRESEC is not going to give you a kickback on the school fees. This is a noble policy where it shows that the politician is thinking about people and is thinking about the next generation. So, for instance, the 1.2 million people who had been educated by free SHS by 2020, Akufo-Addo, the president, doesn't know them. He doesn't know their parents. He doesn't know who they are. He doesn't know where they are. He just put a policy that they benefited from. And he, as a president, as a politician, is not going to get any kickback from education. Nobody is going to give school fees. PRESEC is not going to say, you pay school fees of 100 people, it costs 10,000 cedis, so thank you, this is 2,000 cedis. No, PRESEC is not going to say that because they need the school fees to work. So this is the policy. This is the one policy where you can be sure that it is truly altruistic. It's going to the people. It is not going to benefit any politician. There's not going to be any underhand benefit to the politician. There's not going to be any benefit from under the table because it is truly going to serve the people of Ghana. And that is why those who support Akufo-Addo say that this is the most noble policy that has happened in the Fourth Republic. The one who decided that I'm going to pay the school fees of children. I don't know them. I don't have to know them, but they are Ghanaians. Their parents are Ghanaians, and we're going to pay their school fees. So, in conclusion, because we don't have much time tonight, if we have to review Agenda 111 and leave free SHS where it is, any government that comes must continue the free SHS policy. Now, in connection with that, we know about the strike going on, isn't it? Teachers are on strike and GLOSAC on strike. I saw something from Professor Jampo, which was very instructive. And I agree with the teacher. I think the government must pay them the COLA. The government must pay the teachers the COLA. I think they should. Because you see, teachers and these people, they don't come every day to ask for money. They don't do that. Then when they ask for money and you listen to the teacher's story, I think they have a case. And I also agree with the president in asking them to hold on, stay in school, let us finish the exams, and then prepare the children for the BEC, and let's keep talking. I think that's also a useful appeal they should listen to. But if we have to solve this problem long term, we perhaps have to go back to what Professor Jampo said. He said, and I quote, he said, "I have searched archived documents and held discussions with some surviving retired teachers, members of parliament, and seasoned academics who experienced the regime of Kwame Nkrumah, such as Professor Ivan Adom-Otchere, former politician and former vice-chancellor of the University of Ghana. The following revelations, gleaned from my interactions with them, are worth articulating to shape our discussions on the conditions of the service of the Ghanaian teacher today." He says, prior to independence in 1951, up to the end of the First Republic, teachers, university teachers, were valued as crucial in producing a critical mass of national builders for Ghana. They were, therefore, among the highly paid public servants in Ghana. The salaries of lecturers in Ghana were similar to those of their counterparts in the United Kingdom. A lecturer was paid a sum of £1,040 per annum, while a member of parliament was paid £960 per annum. Senior lecturers were paid around £1,350 per annum, while deputy ministers received around £1,200 per annum. Members of professional ranks were paid more than ministers, with the former receiving between £1,600 and £2,100, while the latter were paid around £1,450. Teachers and heads of secondary schools were paid so well that even government appointees took delight in serving as head teachers. For instance, Chapman Yaho, a secretary to the cabinet and Ghana's ambassador to the United States, was willing to accept an appointment as headmaster of Achimota School. Isaac Cheneboa, a senior lecturer at the linguistics department of the University of Ghana, also accepted to teach and subsequently become headmaster at Achimota. Also, Mr. E.A. Hazel, father of the immediate past registrar of the University of Ghana, who was with the African Studies Department at the University of Ghana, accepted an appointment as head of Achimota School. The Nkrumah government was frugal in the use of public resources and channeled money to areas like teaching that really required the motivation necessary for building the manpower base of the country. To cut costs and ensure enough resources to adequately remunerate teachers, Nkrumah ensured that only civil servants, medical doctors, and judges were allocated government bungalows. All politicians and ministers bought their own cars, hired and paid for their own accommodation. When Nkrumah later built estates, appointees and politicians who could afford them purchased some of them themselves without any loan guaranteed by government. Apart from cutting costs and saving enough to be able to pay adequate compensation, Nkrumah's decision not to allocate government bungalows to politicians, particularly parliamentarians, was premised on his belief that the homes of the MPs are in their constituencies. They are strangers in Accra and must only have temporary accommodation. This belief was to compel MPs to go to their homes and visit their constituencies frequently to ensure effective representation. Abavana Junction around Accra Newtown was named after Mr. R.R. Abavana, an MP from Navrongo and Minister of Education under Nkrumah, who lived in his own house. Nkrumah himself lived at a rented apartment around Accra Newtown until he moved to the castle in 1957. Immediately after the overthrow of the Nkrumah government, successive government, both military and civilian, resorted to salary increment and improvement in the conditions of service of politicians without doing the same for teachers. Okay, so that's from Professor Jampo and Professor Adom-Otchere. And I think that is something I'd like to associate with. Maybe we have to have a roundtable conversations, begin with what we do with university teachers, and then come down to the end. In London, in the United Kingdom, they had a policy entitled Teach First. And so when you left the university and you did very well, we do have national service too, but it's not like Teach First. But if you left the university and you did very well and the university recommended you, you go to teach and you teach in a deprived area. And so after that, you want a job and you have Teach First, the job owners, the job holders, the companies are employed by government to employ people who have done Teach First. So graduates were working hard in the university, making a first class and second upper, so that they will get to Teach First, because after Teach First, you can get to Goldman Sachs. Maybe we need to have an original thinking about this problem and put our money where our mouth is, because teaching and education is fundamentally more important than anything else. I spoke to one politician I'll mention his name because he's a big politician these days. And we're talking about free SHS, okay? That was in 2012, after the 2012 election. And I was asking him that, I don't understand how free SHS policy can be campaigned upon and you still lose the election. I'm really wondering, and and then he said to me, but that's why you need the free SHS. Because you see, we're going to campaign on it again in 2016. Because you see, it's the free SHS that will remove the propaganda. You see, if you have people well educated, propaganda will not fly. People will now vote on issues because they are well educated. And I'm beginning to suspect that the 2024 election is going to be the first election that is going to show whether the free SHS has deconstructed the propaganda or not. I see that on Facebook a lot these days. People are demanding answers from governments. And I think when election comes, we will see the effect of how to educate a community.